Hello and welcome to another review, an exciting one for me because when I saw the case cover or the artwork for this game, the very first thing that hit me was Skies of Arcadia, and I was a massive fan of the Sega Dreamcast when it got launched. I did play a massive array of titles that console had to provide, and Skies of Arcadia was such a phenomenal pirate RPG story game that I absolutely fell in love with everything that game had to offer. So when Sky Oceans came about, I was going into it expecting it to vibe Skies of Arcadia. So is Sky Oceans worth your money? Is it worth your time? Is it worth you paying, downloading, and going through the experience that we have pretty much done? That's what this review is about. We're going to go through the same template that we always do to make it as fair as possible. So let me quickly bring it up and we'll start cracking on. The very first thing that we love to look into first is the choice of music that's used, the audio effects, and the voice acting. Now, the choice of music that they used in this game, I can't complain about it at all. I thoroughly enjoyed the soundtrack all the way up until the point where we had to stop playing the game itself. We put around about 15 to 20 hours into this game, and I'll talk more about why we had to stop. But up until the point that we got to, the choice of music was absolutely fine. There was no breaking in the audio. There was no skipping, glitching, or anything like that within the audio itself. The gun sounds on the ships sound fantastic. The spells were great. So from that aspect, there's no fault there. Where it comes down to voice acting, this game has pretty much little to no real voice acting throughout the RPG story. And I really think that is a massive missed opportunity. During the battles itself, the attacks are voiced by the characters. So they actually had voice actors voice the moves, but they didn't voice any of the dialogue outside of the game itself. And I think that there is its biggest negative, because I really like to sit back and listen to these characters talking to each other, connecting with each other, and it adds to the depth and the emotion and the bonding between you and all the other characters when you can actually hear the level of worry, fear, romance, or whatever it is that's going through the scene at the time itself. And to me, it's just a massive missed opportunity. You're going to be reading a lot. And if you're not a fan of doing a lot of reading, then this is not going to be a game for you. And that's just, that's one of its biggest setbacks, in my opinion. Graphics, texturing, and weather effects. The graphics of this game are very, very good. I absolutely love how this looks. They note it as a Studio Ghibli type style, and I can't fault it at all. Even during the battle sequences, the comic style with the character's face appearing and then the attack, I absolutely love that stuff. But I do wish it had a bigger variation, because you will end up doing the same moves over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, and it's just the same art all the time. There's no break in it at all. There's no different variations. It's always the same shit. But in terms of just the graphics of how it looks fantastic. Now, the problem, though, is the texturing bugs and the glitches that we experience through the massive majority of this game. This game is visually so buggy, it's fucking embarrassing. It's in a point where this game, honest to God, should not have been pushed out in the state that it's in, and it should have been held back. We had textures disappearing. We had glitches out of thin air. We had so many visual errors, it became a laughing stock throughout the review. And we could actually trigger a lot of the visual errors in this game, which made it even more embarrassing. Now, I don't know if it's because it was a bad port. I don't know if they put all their love, their care, and their attention into the PC version of this game and ported it down to consoles and went, we'll fix it later. And if that, honest to God, is the reasoning for how this game is in such a visually buggy mess, then you should be ashamed of yourselves. because you're asking for you're selling this to us in the state that it's in. And that's just not acceptable. I'm sorry, it's 2024 and your game is a visual bug throughout the entire game. Even after your 6 gig update on a 10 gig game, there were still so many visual bugs in it, it became a joke. And I'm really, really, really disappointed in that part. I really am. The character model design, I can't fault that. I really, really can't. I found all the characters who appeared in the game up until that point that we stopped. They all looked unique, and I can't say nothing negative there. I can't. But again, the visual issues that we had was the second biggest knock in this review. I did find a lot of the areas to be very overly saturated and bright as well. I honest to God, I don't know why it was even. I don't know. It's just this could just be me being finicky. But during a lot of the fight sequences that were in the clouds, a lot of the scenes were bright fucking white, and I'm so glad I wear these glasses. To be fair, because it's hard to play a game that visually wants to glare into your eyeballs the whole time. It really is. It is hard to see. I enjoy the night combat and the caverns combat more than anything else, because the color tone is so much lower and the saturation is so much lower. It's easy to focus on things, and it's just it's more enjoyable to watch. Gameplay and mechanics. The game play is separated into 2 sections. You've got the ground walking around itself, and that's mainly when you're running through the towns, you're speaking to people, you're engaging with people when you're either collecting side missions or pushing the story forward. But the majority of the game is done within combat itself, and you've got 2 forms of combat. You've got the small ship pilot combat, and then you've got the big awesome looking ship. But I have to say props to it, because the big ship that you get throughout the game, it looks absolutely fucking awesome. Its combat as well is really cool. Each pilot itself has their own variety of moves. They have their own elements to them as well. So one character might be, for example, fire and ice. One character might be wind and light. And I love that, because you're giving the player the choice where they want to go in combat. So if you want to be fire, ice, then you can mix up your members to match your sort of taste in combat. I'm probably using the wrong word, but you can switch it out. You go to the arts tabs and you can actually unlock more abilities of one specific element. So if you're trying to go down one path, you can, and I like that. I think it's very different. It's something that I'm not used to itself. It's just that, like I said, the combat is very repetitive, and it gets so boring after a while that I ended up turning on the speed up sequences during combat, so it can just get it over and done with. We played the game when it first came out, 2 streams before the big patch that they rolled down, and this was a day or 2 before the launch. And after those 2 streams, I was really fighting in my head. Do I do a recording, or do I just wait and see what happens? So I sent an email to the company, and I said, look, your game is very, very broken, and it's unplayable, to be fair. And they said, don't worry, we've got a big patch coming out on the day of launch, which will fix the bugs and fix a lot of the issues. And again, I was torn. Do I start all over again, or do I reload that file and continue from that point onwards? So we decided just to start all over again. And I can safely say that a lot of the bugs that came up in the first 2 days of streaming this game, yes, they've been fixed, and yes, they've been polished. But alongside that, new bugs and new issues have come up, which now also need patching and fixing, because they are noticeable during your experience. So that's why we had to pretty much start all over again, do another whole load of 5 to 6 hours. And I even done some stream time, some gaming time off stream to try and catch up. But we broke the game really badly after the patch, and I'll talk about that in a minute. Replayability and game difficulty. We played the game on normal. And at times, yes, it was a little bit difficult to actually master, but then you realize that there's an easier abusable mechanic in the game. And what I mean by that is during every battle sequence, you can see which one of your pilots in your team is going to be targeted by the enemy. And you can evade before the attack begins. So for example, you've got 4 characters. 2 of those characters in your team are going to get targeted. So the other 2 go on to the attack and the other 2 go on to the evade. And 99.99% of the time, because you made those 2 characters evade, they don't get hit. Which means you can abuse that to the point where you rarely get touched. And I fought the first boss for the second time without getting hit once. When pre-patch, he killed me multiple times and I got hit by nearly every attack. And I'm sorry, but when you're playing a tactical strategy RPG, I don't think you should ever know who the enemy is about to attack, because by knowing, you can basically prevent it from happening. And it breaks the game in a way, because you're able to go through fights without getting hit. Every once in a while, an attack will land. It just raises your evasiveness. But it's rare. It's rare, even on normal mode. And it's embarrassing, to be fair, because you should never know who's going to hit who. It should be completely randomized, but it's not randomized. We even spotted a pattern where the enemies were attacking the same pilots in your squad all the time, over and over and over again. So all you had to do is keep evading with that pilot. And again, that we exploited it to the point where we were killing so many enemies without getting hit. And that just got stupid. I'm sorry, but that was, it's so broken in that way, and it left a very, very bad taste in our mouth. Game customization, the customization that you have within the game itself is you're able to upgrade your pilots' vessels or ships. You can change the guns over, you can upgrade the hull of the ship, as in you can increase your defense, you can increase your evasiveness, you can equip loads of little add-ons to your ship itself. Does it change them visually? I didn't notice any changes at all. But we had a bug in the shop inventory page which stopped us from scrolling to all the characters that we had. We had quite a roster of characters, I think 6 at one point, and it would only show us the first 4, and there was a sliding bar that you could see, but we couldn't slide up and down to go to the other pilots, so we couldn't change their guns, we couldn't upgrade their armor, we couldn't do fucking nothing. It was just completely broken. And at that stage, it was really wearing me down. Like really, really wearing me down. The very first city that you go to, there was a merchant there who we could upgrade our pilot ships pre-patch, and then after the patch, that shop assistant's now gone. So he went on vacation somewhere, who the fuck knows where, and is no longer in the game. So we couldn't upgrade our ship until we got to the second village, where the merchant luckily was there, and we were able to then upgrade all the components in our ships to make our ships stronger. But I don't get it. What's a bug? What's a fucking feature? I don't know anymore in this game because of how broken it is. And the amount of times we encountered an issue, if we had a tally, we would probably be in the hundreds. Story, if applicable, this is the only one positive thing it has for itself. Now, we reached chapter 8 throughout the game. 8 of 16, I was told, is the amount of chapters that were available in this game. And throughout the story, we were hooked. We were absolutely hooked. I was absolutely loving it. But the bugs and the errors and the glitches and the crashes and the fucking fact that we had to restart again killed the game completely. Another reason why we had to also restart is pre-patch. We defeated a boss the very first boss, when we managed to actually defeat them, our characters went from level 11 to level 27 in one fight. After that, we did a couple of very, very small enemy fights, and we went from 27 to 44. So there was a massive experience bug in the game that made you over level so high to the point where you were unlocking spells you couldn't utilize properly. Not only that, there was a bug also that made you use your AoE spells on your own team, which was great to find that one. And I'm sorry, but the more time I sunk into this game, the more problems and bugs were being showcased, and it just completely killed the experience. I really, really wanted to like this game. I really wanted to get through it and enjoy it, but I just couldn't. I couldn't put not only myself, but I couldn't put my community through such a broken mess of a game. Though they were laughing their fucking asses off throughout most of this review because we found some very funny bugs. It's just, I can't put my time and effort and love and passion into a review that's just absolutely smashing me into the ground. It all stopped when we broke it today. So we were given a mission to go collect red ore so we could coat our ships so we could go to the depths where the lava section was. And during that mission, we bugged it to a point where it told us to continue with the story, which we did. But the mission was still there. So we left and we continued the story as it was supposed to continue. We had a crew member join our crew who was apparently a villain at one point, but the story continued to play through, and that mission was still bugged up on the screen and it wouldn't go away. We then couldn't continue the story because we couldn't progress. It told us that we didn't have a mission, even though it said it on the screen that we did. We couldn't progress the game. So we went back to the previous mission, and lo and behold, the game continued playing as it should have done, and we ended up fighting the bad guy that had already joined our team. So there were two of him. There was one in our team, and there was the enemy on the screen that was the bad guy. That was honest to God to the point where I was just done. The fact that we broke the game so heavily that there were two versions of that person, the bad version and the good version. And I'm sorry, but I can't. I had to say no, I'm done, because I don't want to ruin the image of this game any more in my mind than it already is. And at some stage, I probably would like to come back to this game, replay it again, and hopefully get through all of these fucking bugs. And hopefully the developers understand that it was a mistake to push the game out in the condition that it's in. Online co-op modes, features and stability, all irrelevant. It's a offline single player experience only. There's nothing to do with it online. Purchase price, digital price and value of content. The purchase price at present is $29.99. But we were very lucky to get a code off of Keymailer. And I just want to say, Keymailer, as much as I love you guys offering me a review code, and I appreciate it more than anything else, I'm sorry that this review's gone down the path that it's gone down. But it has. But it fucking has. It's just a shame. It is a real big shame. Any additional notes? We have 2 pages, and a lot of these issues that we noted down were pre-patch, and a lot of them were after patch. So the game itself was only 11 gig large, and that kind of worried me, because usually when it's a RPG, if it's a small file, I don't know, my brain just usually goes down the route of, oh, it's probably missing content, or if the story's not as long as it should be. But it's 11 gig file, PEGI 12. It's labeled as an action adventure single player, released on Xbox, PC, PS5 and Switch. 39 total achievements. So if you're an achievement whore, 39 of them for you to collect. The very first, well, what I've got, I'm pretty sure I have already talked about. So very bright, very oversaturated and graphic flickering, no voice acting. The draw distance is around 15 steps, so you see things spawning in within a 15-meter run period of your character, and that's shit. That is really shit for an art game like this. There should be no draw distances at all. It should all be loaded in completely. There are no button prompts during certain cutscenes, even though they're not cutscenes, they're just scenes, which means if you didn't manage to read it in time, tough shit. You'd probably have to reload so you can reread them again, because there's some that you get to prompt control and there's some that you don't. One positive, the fast loading. No surprise there, because the game doesn't really have to load much in, to be honest. A lot of text is missable, which we've already talked about. Treasure icons should go away once they're looted. That bug is so fucking annoying. You have a scanning feature from one of your pilots who can detect treasure chests that are around the area, and if you shoot them to unlock them and get the treasure, that icon doesn't disappear. So you may fly back accidentally thinking you've not looted it, but you actually have. Each pilot has, like I said, their own unique attacking abilities, but also their own unique out of combat abilities as well, like picking stuff up, shooting rocks, shooting enemies before you engage in combat, and vice versa. And that's a cool little add-on, I'm not gonna lie. I really like that. There was no death animations, but I'm guessing because it's a PEGI 12, they didn't want to be on the violent side of things. So when you down a ship, the game just ends. You don't see the which I think would have been nice, but then you probably would have had to put the age rating up a little bit. The battle audio is extremely loud compared to the overall game, and that's something that you actually can't turn down throughout, because we turned all of the tabs down, but the gunshots and the spells that were in the battle were always peaking in my OBS, and it baffles me that I couldn't turn that one down as well. This was before patch, but there were fire attacks that were shown as ice animations. We had an item bug where items weren't restored if you failed your missions. We already talked about the first boss fight being stupid. Bugged quests, arsenal inventory list bug, leveling bug, difficulty scaling, no spell variations, but I don't, that's just me nitpicking there. We uninstalled and reinstalled the game at that point to see if it would help fix the issues. It didn't. No game prompt about speeding up the battle combat. You can speed the battle combat up, but I never saw a prompt telling you could do that. And we thought we actually broke the game at that point, but it wasn't. It was just a speed up sequence. No quest bubbles above NPCs, but that got fixed, and we actually saw bubbles above NPCs at that point. So thanks for fixing that one. But I think NPCs that have quests above their head, there should be an icon, not just a speech bubble, but there should be an actual quest icon above their head, so you can tell the difference between a normal NPC and a quest NPC. Just my opinion. Certain menus not appearing correctly in the ship. Bugged AP meter where you would start the battle, and for some reason some of your crewmates had no attack power at all, so they couldn't do any spells. They could only basically shoot. The RNG system with missing was way too broken. You'll find a lot of the time during combat that you'll miss a lot. And the enemy will miss you too a lot as well. I just don't get the high obsession of misses. It's really irritating. I did love the fact that your ship staff, that you ended up having a cook, a therapist, and a doctor. Absolutely love that feature. I thought that was really, really, really cool. And then after the patch, here comes more problems. Enemy attacks were still attacking the same members of the team. The leveling up was fixed, but you still level up nearly every fight, which is a bit the evading is still a thing. Game tells you who is getting hit. Yeah, we noticed that was still a thing, even though it was pre-patch as well. Graphic bugs, texture glitches. Nah, yeah, it's just a whole page of just broken shit. So What it boils down to is, would I recommend that you go out and grab this game? Would I recommend that you sink your time into it? And please don't buy this game. I'm so fucking sorry to say it. This game is not ready. This game needs way more time for it to be polished, and it needs way more love and care to be put into it. I feel like it is still missing a lot of the basics that you would expect out of an RPG. It's rare that I have to quit a review. It's rare, but it's not just Xbox that this is happening to. This is happening across the board on other platforms too, and there's a lot of very upset people out there right now because, again, this is a £30 game. And let me just double check that. I'm pretty sure someone said it was on the Switch for £30 as well. But value of content is important, so I just want to double check what the asking price is. I think it is $29.99. Sorry, I should have this all prepared. It's £20, $19.99 on the Xbox Series X. Did someone say in chat that it was $29.99 on the Switch? It's not $29.99 on the Switch, is it? Or is that dollars? But it's a £20 game on the Xbox Series X. Do I honestly feel that there's value of content? I think that the value of content is, with how broken it is, no. With what they have to offer, yes. But it needs to be polished and fixed though. No, I'm not recommending this game at all right now until the game has had a good amount of time to be combed, cleaned, polished, and patched, like aggressively patched. So all it boils down to right now is, what would I score it? Oh, it's $19.99 on the Switch too. Thank you, Trilabs. In its current state, if you are okay pushing through the bugs, I'm serious to God, if you're okay with playing something that could potentially break on you, then that's in your hands. I would wait. Please wait, and then give it. Oh, for some reason they haven't launched the even though that they've launched down a 6 gig patch, I can't find the patch notes anywhere. I went onto their own website, I went onto their Twitter, I went through the web for about 20 minutes and I couldn't find any of their patch notes to find out exactly what they fixed. Can you, if you ever watch this video, please release your patch notes so we know what you're doing to the game, please. Because we shouldn't be playing a game that's this broken, and if we're just waiting for a certain thing to be fixed, then at least we can see that in the patch notes once you push them out. Scoring as is, with its brokenness and with how unpolished it is, I was loving the story and the music and the sound. The stuff that I was liking is pushing this score up slightly, but it is a very broken game. So in its current state, it's a 2 out of 10 right now. And it will stay a 2 out of 10 in my mind until it is fixed. Yes, could I complete this game? I probably could, but that would mean I'd have to play through all the issues that I'm going through just to get through it, and I should not have to do that. I should not be forced to sit down and play through a game that is so broken to try and find any shreds of enjoyment from it. And that's just my opinion. That's my opinion. Let me know in the comments down below. Do you think I'm being too harsh? Do you think, you know, I'm being unfair? I don't think I'm being unfair because we gave it a great amount of time and we just couldn't play through the bugs and the issues. I'm sorry. It just killed the game for me. But if you enjoyed the video, give a thumbs up. I'd appreciate it. Comments down below. As always, I will respond. And I hope to see you guys in the next review. Stay safe, and I love you all. Appreciate you all. Bye-bye.